Moving on to some of the loan moves, and this one is it's kind of a bit of a cheat, but it's an initial loan move, and of course, the big Premier League news was that Liverpool need a centre back, and they decided to get two on deadline day, and that was the signing of Ben Davis from Preston. But the more glamorous, the more high profile one was of course Ozan Kabak, who signed from Schalke on an initial loan deal. Sam, I really want to pick your brains here because you might want to set the record straight here. You had an appearance on the Sky Sports Football podcast, and it seems that they may have had your pants down, have they?
Oh man, I just got a bit comfortable talking about the deal, and I used the phrase Liverpool have pulled Schalke's pants down on this deal, and it they decided to turn it into a bit of a headline, which is fine. Needs must, needs must. But the point I was making was that it doesn't right at this point. It doesn't genuinely matter if Ozan Kabak is a potential world-class player, if he could become a good player, if he's not even that good at all. Schalke have screwed this up because we know their situation. They're bottom of the Bundesliga by a fair distance. They're a decent distance off even automatic safety, and they look pretty doomed. They've won a couple of games in the last 12 months. We know it's a rotten place, and we know that their accounts look really, really bad. They're at least 200 million euros in debt. The pandemic hasn't helped them at all, and they're going to go down. They're in dire straits. Why then have they not only reduced their chances of staying up by saying goodbye to Ozan Kabak on deadline day in January, but also not demanded at least more than like £1.5 million loan fee for him up front, because you could use that money. Have you seen your accounts? And furthermore, do you realize that an option in a loan doesn't necessarily get taken up? So not even guaranteed the cash windfall that they're clearly going to need if they drop. And Liverpool have been very clever here because they've been able to get a very talented young defender through the door at a time of desperate, desperate need, in a time where most clubs in the same position would get strong-armed into paying double or triple or paying a huge contract out or putting clauses in. They'd be in a really tough spot. Liverpool have somehow come out the winners here, despite the fact that they literally have no senior centre-backs. All three of them are out for the rest of the season. I don't know how Michael Edwards does this. I really don't understand. And the beauty of the deal for Liverpool is that Kabak could be great, and they could make him permanent for an extremely reasonable fee, considering the potential position and age. About 25 million he'll cost. If they don't, if he's okay, if they don't want to, and they feel like he's going to compromise their long-term ambitions and he's going to compromise the overall plan, if Joe Gomez, John Matip, and Virgil van Dijk are all going to come back and they're going to be okay, then they don't even have to make him permanent. And then Schalke just did it all for nothing, didn't they? They went down without Kabak, and now they've got to sell him, and he'll probably get even less. It's just kind of mad, Joe. I don't know how they do it.
It's okay, Sam. It's okay. I promise. It's all going to be okay, unless you're Schalke, of course. It's just you speaking about Schalke's accounts there. I was sort of gazing off into the distance and looking at one of my houseplants, which is very, very sad at the moment because I realised that I've neglected it a fair bit, and it looks a bit like Schalke, to be honest.
Oh, no.
It is a bit strange, like when you look at the particulars of the deal. I mean, 1.5 million is nothing. It's nothing to Liverpool for 6 months effectively. They pay more in weekly wages to their front three than they will for Kabak on a monthly basis. You know what I mean? So it's nothing to them. And to think that Liverpool were over a barrel. They have no centre backs. Everybody in world football knows that. Jurgen Klopp said that it's unlikely that Van Dijk will play again this season. We know about Joe Gomez's injury history, so why would you unnecessarily risk him? And the fact that they were going after a championship central defender says a lot about where they were and where their priorities lie. They just needed a body. So if you're Schalke, you play hardball, or you'd think, wouldn't you? But yeah, the option. I mean, I'm a little bit sick as a parrot at this one because apparently, according to the BBC, Kabak was going to undergo a medical to sign for Newcastle before Liverpool swooped in. Now, even the most ardent Newcastle fan in the world, if you offer the chance to play for the Premier League champions over Steve Bruce's Newcastle United on deadline day, it's going to be one of those decisions where you take about 4 seconds to decide. So I can see why that has happened, but considering that half of Newcastle's centre backs are out of contract at the end of the season, I think it's Kieran Clark was, but Federico Fernandez, who's been very good for Newcastle, he is out of contract. Could have done with Ozan Kabak, especially given that it's not exactly looking great. It's a bit of a mini Schalke going on, just not in the financial sense. But yeah, it's a strange situation. And obviously Liverpool have got the best out of that move. It'll be interesting to see him in the Premier League. He is known for being rather brutish and powerful at attacking set pieces. So there might be a threat in the opposition box from a Liverpool sense now.
Yeah, I mean, so I've tried to watch as much Ozan Kabak as I can over the last 12 months because I've been aware of his potential and people have been talking about and flagging him. And I watched as much Schalke as I could in the post-lockdown part of June and July, mostly to watch Weston McKennie, actually. But obviously you're watching the whole team there. And it has been very difficult when you're watching Kabak not to just think the entire time, wow, Schalke were rubbish. Like that's the overriding feeling through all of it, and it's you have to really concentrate on these individual players to really understand and see their strengths because they're swimming in a pile of shit. And I really had to work hard with McKennie, and it struck me that actually no, he's good, and if you gave him some relatively decent colleagues, he'd look even better. I never thought he'd go Juve. To be clear, I'm not trying to say I was in that from the start. I thought Southampton or Villa would be a decent stepping stone move for Weston McKennie. But Kabak's the same. And so anyone that's worried about getting a player coming out of such a wretched team, just look at McKennie as the example. And Kabak's aggressive. He dominates in duels. He wins a lot of aerials. Yes, he can maybe cross the line a little bit sometimes, but the physical profile is there. And look, I mean, it's going to cost $1.5 million. This is an unbelievable win in a situation that looked totally and utterly dire.
Exactly. I think that's probably the best way of putting it.